Hey guys, what's going on? This is Pants Our Dragon, and today we'll be doing a video about what champions to play when you aren't a top lane main, as requested by some of you guys. So the idea of playing champions in the top lane will be tanks or people who are useful mid game and late game, and of course champions who don't require a lot of effort to manage them in the lane. Champions who are also very sturdy and hard to break in lane are good champions to pick from since they do have a lower chance to die than say someone like Riven. And since generally the main concept is going to be playing tanks, you can build against your lane to have more of an easier lane to go against. And of course champions who are kinda hard to play mechanically or you do need some knowledge of the matchup won't be considered, and for the few champions in this video, I'll be giving you some tips on how to play them in teamfights and in the lane. And with all that being said, let's get started. Alright, so first up we're going to be talking about Nasus. So Nasus scales really good into the late game and mid game because of his base damage coming from his ultimate and the stacking power of his Q. He is also fairly tanky because of his ultimate giving him extra hit point, and he just builds armor or magic resist and can take a lot of hits. He's also pretty easy to play. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of button mashing to do, and his skills are very straightforward. And so in the laning phase, all you really have to do is try and farm as much as you can while trying to avoid trading with the enemy. This is really easy to do because if you do build enough resist against the enemy, eventually he won't be doing any damage, and you'll just be lifestealing off that damage off the creeps you're farming off of. Nasus does have pretty good trading potential if the enemy fights him in his creep line because of that Spirit of Fire armor shredding him, so your minions will be actually doing more damage, and of course yourself. I wouldn't force trades onto the enemy unless you know you can win them, but most of the time I will still concentrate on farming, but if the enemy decides to go on me, I will retaliate. And the combo of the trade is usually E auto attack Q. If you think the enemy will retreat before you can do an auto attack Q, just do the Q instead. Now if you think you're going to all in the enemy, that's when you pop your Wither and start auto attacking him to death. It also helps if the enemy is going for a long trade, so it cuts their attack speed in half, and thus you probably will come up on top if he keeps trading with you. When you feel like the enemy is going to stick around you and has no escapes, that's where you can pop your ultimate and go all in onto the enemy. This way you can stick beside him and proc your ultimate, which does % health damage, and you'll also be gaining some AD. I wouldn't use it, to surprise the enemy that you actually have more health than you actually do. That's just really inefficient. Another tip when laning against the enemy is you always want to try and build against their damage, so if they do more physical damage, try building a Frozen Heart. If they do more magic damage, then build Spectre's Cowl. Nasus already has enough base damage, so you want to be building some tanky stuff. As for playing Nasus in teamfights, it's fairly easy. Whether the person that you want to go on, and once you're near that person, pop your ultimate, put your E down, and press your Q. Don't use the auto attack reset, because I think getting your Q down much quicker is more important than just one auto attack. Putting down your E before the Q is really important because you want to shred their armor before putting down your physical damage nuke. I wouldn't dive onto the enemy carries and ignore their front line because Nasus doesn't really have a gap closer. So it's much more safer to kind of be your frontline tank for your team and not ignoring their front line, unless you can get onto those carries without being peeled off of. And that's it for Nasus. Let's go on to Maokai. Alright, so Maokai, a really good tank, probably one of the strongest tanks mid game and late game because he has a lot of CC, has an ultimate to reduce damage by 20% for his allies, and his passive gives him sustain when he auto attacks enemies. So yeah, he's pretty consistent even when he's behind, but he's also pretty durable in lane. For playing him in lane, it's actually pretty easy. All you really have to do is hit your Q at the enemy if he's in range, and that's basically your poke or trading with the enemy. And yeah, just very simple and concentrate on farming. If you feel like you can win trades and you're ahead of the enemy, you can always use your W to gap close onto him, give him an auto attack and then a Q, and you can add an E if you want, or you can save the mana. Be aware though that when you do W onto the enemy, it does leave you open to gank since you're being a bit aggressive. If you feel like you're going to go for a long trade, make sure to pop your ultimate so that you take reduced damage from the enemy, and you also do more damage since you're racking up that bonus damage off your ultimate. It is definitely very hard to trade with a Maokai who has his ultimate up, so the enemy might be weary when attacking you through your ultimate. When playing Maokai in teamfights, you always want to go for the high priority target and try and initiate or peel for your back line. Most of the time you do want to stick with your allies, so you do protect them with your ultimate, so try and emphasize on that. Make sure to focus targets that your team is focusing, or of course switch to targets who are out of position. And if you feel like the teamfight is over, pop your ultimate for the finisher and killing your enemies. Two other tips when playing Maokai in teamfights is make sure when you root someone, use your Q at the end of the CC, so that you know you can chain your CC together to get a really big CC combo. Another tip is you do want to leave your ultimate as long as possible because you aren't a damage dealer, you're a tank. And you want to be as tanky as possible and soak all the damage. So unless you know that you've won the team fight, I recommend you hold it on the whole time. Oh yeah, and talking about builds, I'd say go Rod of Ages if you're ahead, but if you're, average or behind, go Righteous Glory. Now that's going to be enough about Maokai, how about we talk about some Vladimir? Alright, so Vladimir is actually, pretty easy to play, except for last hitting creeps. That's actually the only thing I find really hard with him, and you gotta get used to that by yourself by just playing him a bit. But other than that, he's pretty straightforward, he doesn't really have any skill shots, and he's actually rather safe because he just sustains up his hit point and there's no more ignite in the top lane. The only mechanically hard thing to do is knowing when to use your pool. But basically, first off, the way to play Vladimir in lane is Q the enemy whenever you can. In this case, it's kinda hard because Cassiopeia does zone me, since she does have a longer range, so I have to dodge the Q before zoning her. And also, I probably should have bought boots in 3 pots for this matchup. But anyways, basically Vladimir is all about poking the enemy down with his Q. But if he can't, then he just passively farms and tries to hold himself, or builds against his enemy and builds something like magic resistance against Cassiopeia. Usually when my Q is up, I'll try and take an aggressive stance and try and poke the enemy, but if it is down, I'll play really defensive and concentrate on farming until it's up again. I'll try harassing with E if I can, but it is a relatively short range, so usually just try and poke the enemy with Q, and use E whenever the enemy is close to me or I'm under tower and trying to last hit. The way to use your W is use it as an escape, when you're being ganked or if something's going to kill you for the last hit. Use it to dodge some abilities that might be coming your way. Definitely use as an escape tool or mechanically outplaying the enemy. When you're all-inning the enemy, make sure to cast your ultimate first onto the enemy so that they do take increased damage from all your spells, and then cast whatever you got left. Use your W to slow the enemy so they don't get away, or try to save it for a big spell that might hit you. And yeah, you're just basically using it for the invulnerability so that your spells come back up. Now, this is probably the best teamfight clip I can get out of this gameplay. And it's not that great, but it'll have to suffice. So anyways, cast your ultimate on as much enemies as you can, cast your Q and E on a high priority target, and use your W to dodge an important skill that might kill you. In this case, it was Rupture, and it would have done a lot of damage to me. Once you have your Zonias, you always want to use the Zonias after you've pooled, since you're waiting on your cooldowns and you do want to have that W cooldown go down while you're waiting in stasis. Because in a team fight, you only pop your Zonias once, while a pool might come back up twice. Although I wouldn't judge me on this game because of my score, I have beaten Zhao Wei Zhao 1v1 middle as Vladimir versus Cassiopeia. I did have some troubles, but eventually he just stopped pursuing me and had given up on trying to defeat me. And next up we're going to be talking about Galio. So Galio right now is an unpopular champion right now, not a lot of people play him. But I do only when the enemy is running a lot of magic damage, and I'm against a magic damage dealer in lane. So yeah, I'd only really play him if I was against a lot of magic damage, because there's other better tanks than him. And it is actually pretty easy to play Galio. Obviously, you gotta hit your Q in lane, and it is a skill shot. But here's a trick to always hit your Q 90% of the time. Whenever the enemy is going for a CS and you see his auto attack animation or whatever, or you're predicting he's gonna auto attack right now, that's when he's immobile for a split second and you can toss out a Q, predicting on what he's gonna do next, probably going for that next CS. Most times I won't use my E unless I'm all-inning, because it does cost a bit of mana, and you want to save your mana for your harassing tool, which is Q. The only time I would use W is of course to heal up myself by either drawing the minion aggro somehow by auto-attacking them or going ahead of the creep wave and catching them, but most of the time I'll just probably stick to harassing the enemy with my Q. And of course when you think you can kill the enemy, that's when you pop your ultimate and kill him. Pretty simple, right? And then once you're trying to flee from the enemy, pop your W because you become more tankier and stuff. And then you would use your E to get away, so that's basically how you escape from ganks and stuff. Also, if you're walking back to lane, make sure you use your E to get that movement speed so you get there faster. Now next up is going to be talking about how to teamfight with Galio. First up, I'd like to toss out my spells before I use my ultimate so they're on cooldown while I'm channeling my ultimate. But obviously if you can catch 4 people in that direct moment, you should probably prioritize ulting first and, winning the team fight off that one ulti. I wouldn't use my W on myself before channeling my ultimate unless I was already low hit point, but most of the time I'll just use it after, since I'll probably be taking a lot of retaliation damage from the enemy after it's done channeling. And of course I didn't explain the usage of your W, but you would use it to protect your allies from dying or anyone who is in harm. Also, even if you can't find a 4-man ultimate, getting 2 people is fine as long as you think you can win a teamfight by just catching them too. Remember, I'd only pick Galio if you were against a heavy magic damage composition. Now, as opposed to the guy who likes facing magic damage, how about that guy who likes facing physical damage? That person named Malphite. Okay, so just like Galio, I'd pick this guy when you're facing a lot of physical damage. He's definitely a lot easier to play than Galio just because he has no skill shots. I mean, his ultimate is a skill shot, but not really. So mechanically, he's not that hard to play. And he's a tank, so he's going to be useful even if he's behind. So the way I see laning phase is if you're going to trade with the enemy and he's a ranged champion, well, you better start maxing out Q, because you'll probably never touch him with your E. On the other hand, if you're facing a champion who is melee, then you start maxing out E and you have a better time. So the way I see it with ranged matchups is you're gonna just toss out your Q and basically harass him like that. So the way to trade with Malphite is you toss out a Q, and if you feel like you can trade autos with him, then you run up to him and smack him and then give him an E. If you feel like you're going for more of a longer trade, then you can obviously activate your W, just for gaining more armor and attack damage. Also in the next patch, he's going to be getting a change to his W, where his W gives like an enhanced auto attack, so you're probably going to have a lot more damage when trading with the enemy. But it is generally the same concept, you only activate it if you're going for long trades. And then the way to use your ultimate is if you're going for all in, or if a gank is coming, then you want to set that up. But personally, I would usually hold on to my ultimate because my Q will keep stealing his movement speed so I can catch up with him until I can finish him. Unless the enemy has a script or know when you're about the ultimate or has some like godlike reaction timing. But this isn't a script though because he flashed before I used my ultimate. So I just got outplayed. At least I think I did, but I'm not too sure. Alright, so playing Malphite in teamfights is actually pretty easy. You just kind of cast your spells and kite back or keep going if the enemy doesn't have any retaliation against you. You want to prioritize ulting squishies or a bunch of enemies grouped up. And when you do ult the squishies, make sure you have follow-up of some kind. Otherwise, most likely you probably won't kill them single-handedly because they will get PO and you aren't a one-man army. As you can see, the Volibear in this teamfight tries to ignore the tanks but is getting kited super hard and ends up dying for free. What he should have done was switch targets to the Nautilus instead. In this fight, the reason I held onto my ultimate and not committed to this fight was because I didn't really know where Kog'Maw was and I saw Mordekaiser was not here, so it was a 4v4, potentially turning into a 4v5. Plus we probably wouldn't have killed Ashe right at the bat even if I did alter by myself. Now in this teamfight I know that it's a good opportunity to get Ashe because her flash is down, so it's a good time to initiate on her. And I know this time that I'll actually have follow-up than just me trying to solo her. And then after you would just switch your focus to someone your AD carries and squishies are trying to focus down and kill. So as you can see, after the initiation, it's actually pretty easy to play Malphite in teamfights. Just be a tank who soaks a lot of damage and use your cooldowns whenever they're up. Of course, if you can get a kill and you have no one to peel for, you might as well go for the squishies in the back. And then of course, it's pretty simple from here. So yeah, I recommend playing Malphite if the enemy has a lot of AD on their team. And you know, he's pretty durable in lane since he is a tank. And essentially, you're building against the enemy with your armor. So you should have a pretty easy time. And again, you're useful even if you lose in lane because you have a lot of CC and initiation power. Hey guys, so thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did enjoy this video, maybe you enjoyed general tips for solo queue and climbing a ladder right up there, or what AD carries to play when you aren't an AD carry main, which is similar to this video, and like the concept behind that video is AD carries who scale really good into the mid game and late game so you can be, you know, useful. Or have a lot of utility like Ashe and Sivir. And again, subscribe right there if you want to join the No Pants Party. I am Panther Dragon, and I'll see you guys next time.